In the last episode, I was having all sorts of problems with the Create New Age motors, basically trying to power this big old skyscraper, which requires an awful lot of SU because each one of the layers of this skyscrapers has 4 sets of full-size crafters on them. And that's a big problem, because these things, no matter which way we look at it, just don't work the way I want them to. You see, I had all sorts of problems with them just breaking or smashing the shafts that were in front of them, and a lot of people said it was due to the fact they weren't getting enough power, which I don't think is the case. You see, these overcharged diamond wires can transfer 8,192 energy per tick, and we certainly weren't using that much just to try and power all of this, and you could argue that maybe there's just not enough coming through considering we're using this for all of the other buildings as well, and that might be true. But again, I have absolutely no way of finding that out because they don't actually tell you how much energy is in the wires. Thanks again, Create New Age. If only there was some sort of device I could plug into this wire to be able to determine how much energy was available. But there isn't. So that leaves me with a problem. How am I going to power this massive skyscraper in order to get all of my things working? Well, we're not going to be using the Create New Age motors that I spent all that time in the last episode making. They can go back in that backpack to be never used again. Instead, we're going to use the electric motors from Create Crafts and Additions and just require a whole bunch of them because they don't generate very much stress at all. But they are a whole bunch more reliable, so I have absolutely no doubt that these are going to work perfectly in this situation. But we are going to add them in slightly differently because we're going to need a whole bunch of them. See, we can join 4 together like that and combine all of the stress from these. But I need to figure out exactly how much stress I need and how much stress I can generate and how many motors I'm going to need to do that. And some of the comments told me that there is a way I can save myself a bit of stress. You see, we don't actually need the full 9 crafters for these. We only actually need 5, but in order to make them work nice and easily, we had to join them together around the back to make a full thing. But that means I can actually take one of the corners off each one and the whole thing will still be joined together. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove the corners from each one of these. And that's going to save me over 2,000 SU per floor of this building. And now that's done, I've done myself a little bit of math and written it in this clipboard so we know exactly what we need. We've managed to save ourselves 32 crafters, which has actually saved us 16,384 SU. But that still leaves 32 crafters per floor, which means each floor needs 16,384 stress, and there are 8 levels, which means we need 131,072 stress in total. Each motor from the Create Stuff and Additions mod generates 16,384 stress at max speed, which means we need 8 motors in total just to power the crafters. And there will be other stuff in this building, so we're going to need more than 8, and that means we need to set up a little bit like this, with 8 motors there, all set to maximum speed. All connected to the electricity with these connectors and many of these cables. So we're just going to connect all those together like that. We'll connect those through the motors and connect those together like that. We'll put a connector on there, we'll connect that one to that one, and we'll connect that one to that one. And hopefully we should see that there is enough electricity running through this cable to, yes, power every single one of these with no problem at all. So yes, the Create New Age issue I was facing was absolutely nothing to do with electricity or energy. It was to do with the fact that the motors are no good. So now that we've got all of these plumbed into each other, what we can now do is bring these up a little bit like this and spin them round like that. And now if I put my stressometer there, we should see that we have 131,072 SU, which is conveniently the exact amount that I needed. So now all I need to do is get rid of that, grab myself a gearbox, put it on there, spin it round, put a bit of shaft there to join up with that, and now all of the floors should be connected and none of the shafts are breaking. But we're chucking stuff everywhere because, oh jeez. Let's disconnect it and figure out what that problem is. Probably something to do with the fact that I've smashed all of the crafters to bits. They were probably just letting loose all of the stuff that they already had in them that they couldn't actually run because they already had items in. Oh. And it would make sense that I actually spin the crafters round that are now just aiming to the floor. Yes, that would help. So now that all of my crafters have been properly twizzled, everything should run properly now. What I'm actually going to do though, rather than putting that shaft back in there, is literally just stick this stressometer here to show that we are, well, we've actually got remaining SU. Which might mean that something's not running. 4,096 spare? I guess I should check every level. There we go, here's the culprit. This one's not running for some reason. Perhaps it's this cog. There we go. Let's just put the casing back on there and everything is back running again, which should mean we are using absolutely all of the available power to us. Yes, we are using literally every single ounce of power that we've got. And what that means is we should probably add on at least one more motor, just so that we've got spare for when we build things like an elevator to get up and down the different floors of this building. So all I'm going to do is come down below these motors, throw another one on there, set it to maximum speed, put a connector on it, connect that connector to that one. Now that's running at maximum speed. We can throw that on there and that will add to the stress, which means when we look at the stressometer, we've got 16,384 available to us. And look, no issues with the power going to it, because it wasn't that. It was definitely the Create New Age mod motors just being stupid. Anyway, enough of complaining about things in a mod that I would never in a million years be able to code myself. I should probably get on with other things that we need to do today. One of them being to decorate both of these buildings to bring them in line with our other two skyscrapers that are already decorated, and the main thing, building a storage system so that we can finally get a transport network set up to move the items between the skyscrapers rather than just connecting them all with these big old beams. Now I did get some suggestions of building some sky bridges between some of these buildings, and that might be a nice idea, but that's not very high on my to-do list. What's high on my to-do list is getting out the schematic cannon and adding some fascias to these ones. But before I do that, I really need to stop this little warp plate making the world's most horrendous noise, and there's an easy way to do that, and that is to basically get the box full of glow squid ink sacks from down here and swap it out with the one up there. This one. So let's just whip that out of there, put that one in instead. That one can be glow squid for down here, and now it's empty. We can take this one with us. With us? No, not the wither mob, mate. Go back up to the top, and I need to get this in there. So what I might do, just get rid of this warp plate for a minute and just put that on there and let it suck all of those out and put them in there, which is kind of pointless really, but I don't want to disconnect it altogether in case I upset the entire thing. And we'll just leave that there for now, I guess, until that one's full. Or do I dare rip this one out and put that one in its place? Well, I tell you what I could do, is take out some of these capacity upgrades and put them in there. Silence. And all of my mechanical crafters are doing an amazing job generating many lovely light blocks. Which brings me nicely to the design of this building. Yes, we're going to be sticking with the cyan terracotta, and yes, I'm going to be using white concrete again, just like I did on this building over here, but this time we're going to be utilizing some of the light blocks to make this entire thing look a little bit more snazzy. Yes, snazzy, it's a good word. You should learn it and use it regularly. So basically what I'm thinking, in between each of these floors, we'll have a row of the cyan terracotta there, we'll have another row of the cyan terracotta there, but we'll probably have to bring that out another block like this, and then we'll grab ourselves some shiny light blocks and make this building all neon-y. And I think the best colour for that to start with is probably going to be the green one, because the lime green just looks very neon, doesn't it? And we can throw those in there between that like that. And this building's going to have a very modern electric neon vibe, and we could even do different colours of neon all the way up and make it very neon-y and electrified. But just having straight rows of the neon electrified looking blocks like this is going to be a little bit boring. So what I think we could also do is actually, you know, do a bit of a wibbledy winding pattern around this building and bring up the terracotta a little bit like this. It says, having put that one in completely the wrong place, let's bring that up a little bit further. Bring that along here like this. Smash all of these bits I put in the wrong place to bits. And then we can bring our light blocks up through the middle, like so, and have them wind around the building in a very electrical way. That might look nice. I don't know. I haven't done any design or testing. I'm going to figure it out, probably in the creative test world, and then get on with it. Which means I actually need a schematic of this entire building to take it into a creative test world so that I can play with it. So I guess I'll be back with you guys in a minute. So, a little while later, I have completed my design in my test world. However, I've used quite a lot of these slab stair frame blocks from the reframe mod, which means using those on the schematic cannon, they're not actually going to get filled in. And when I mean filled in, I mean these can have two different colours, and even though they had that colour on my schematic, when I actually use the schematic cannon, they're all going to be blank, which means I'm going to have to manually go around and fill them all in, which means I'm probably going to need more blocks than I've actually got in here. That said, if I look at my material checklist, everything that I actually want to print is ready, and there's a handful of stuff that I don't need because that already exists in the building, except for this scaled light grey wool. I completely forgot about that. I do need that one. So I guess I need to go back to my little workshop and see if I've got any light grey wool. Got any left over from before? Oh, I do. So let's get this on the loom thing. We want this in scaled light grey wool, which is one of these. That one. Hopefully that'll be enough and I don't have to go all the way back to my starter area to get some more. Let's find out. Chuck it in the backpack. Put the clipboard in the cannon. Check my list, and yes, that has gone into the completed section, which means the only things we haven't got are the things that already exist in the building, and that means it's time to print. But I need my gunpowder, which is back in this building over here, where I'm currently storing all of this junk. Let's just grab that from my backpack there. There we go, 36 of them. That should be plenty. Head back to the schematic cannon, and let's get this thing built. And also, let's hope that when I print it, it doesn't overwrite anything that already exists, because I don't want to break everything we've already put in here. And there is one way we can make sure that doesn't happen. If I go to settings here, we've got don't replace any solid blocks, and that might mean that some of the build doesn't actually get printed, but we can add those in later and make sure that everything's in the right place. And it looks like a lot of these have stopped running, so we should have, yeah, a good amount of things in all of these, which means the redstone links have all... No, they're not on at the back, so why are we not producing... Oh, we've run out of glow ink. I didn't expect that. Well, let's get rid of that then. Put the warp plate back on there so it can connect. And there are some more down there, apparently. I can only assume that that thing is actually running while I'm in the area. Let's go and find out and see how many are down there. There are... yeah, a handful. Not many, but a handful. That's fine. I guess I'm going to have to do a little bit more AFK if I want a whole bunch more of them. But that means we've gone through over 134,000 of them just creating what we've got here. So it's probably about right, because some have got more than that, and I have stole a whole bunch of them for this build. And speaking of this build, let's get it building. And 3, 2, 1, go. It's going. Time for the world's shortest time lapse of this being built and then me going round like a maniac, filling in all the gaps. Hurrah! Well, there we go. We finally have a building, and it's very green, and it's very glowing, and it's very luminous. I'd love to see what this looks like at night with shaders, but at the moment it's, well, actually it's not far off nighttime, so we might be able to see that in a minute. But yeah, I'm kind of happy with it. It still sort of fits in with the simplistic sort of skyrise vibes we've got going on, but of course, yes, this one is very green and very glowy. And I've done the inside too. But first, let's hit that shaders button and wait for all of the lag. Jeez! It's a bright one. That's a very bright building. Yeah, it kind of stands out at nighttime. Jeez. Okay, that's enough of those shaders. Let's go check out what's going on the inside after I've had a little snooze in the garden. So inside at the ground floor, there's not a great deal going on. We've got a nice entrance space here, which wasn't finished off, that is now, with nothing in it. And inside here on the ground floor, there is also nothing, but we do have lights. These are technically light blocks in copycat panels, but they don't actually appear to be producing a great deal of light. Whereas if I put one next to it, you can see that's much brighter. Which is kind of odd, because the light blocks in all of the other blocks, well, they still emit light, so I'm not sure if that's an issue with Create's copycat panels or what, but anyway, that's what we've got. We do now have an elevator, and we can go in this, go to the ground floor or storage or any of the other floors, which I've not bothered to label because they're all exactly the same. So let's head up to storage, hop out here. I can't get it. Why can't I get out? That was weird. Get out at my storage floor and you can see I've sort of hidden all of these things behind iron bars. We've got some iron bars where the elevator goes up behind. We've got our storage system, and that's about it. I have bothered to actually do the ceilings on every single floor this time, and we've got all this nice green glowing light around the walls, making everything nice and shiny, and all of the little hallways are like this. And in previous builds, I did get some comments saying, why have I made the floors too low down? Well, it's basically because when I built these things, I built these things on the floor level that we had, completely forgetting that the floor level was supposed to be at this level. But it's fine, because I kind of like the fact that you step down into the business area of the room. Anyway, going back up and somehow why can't I get in my elevator? Let me in. Let's go up to the next floor, which is exactly the same as, jeez, all the other floors. And this is with the crafters in, and I haven't really done a great deal other than adding that on the wall to make that look a little bit more secure, and I've also boxed in all of the shaft that goes all the way up to make that look a bit better. We've got access to our stressometer, and that's about it. However, we're not finished yet. There is more to this building and more to this elevator, because, don't forget, this building is standing on something very important, which is where the source of all of that horrible noise is coming from. If we look down this hole, of course, we have our glow squid farm. And it would be very useful if we could get down to it without me having to fall down this hole, and it would also be quite nice if this wire wasn't coming through this window. So let's first address that, and then let's get the elevator to go all the way down to the bottom, which is actually going to be ridiculously easy, but let's worry about the wire first. So how are we going to do this? We've already got a wire going into there. Perhaps we could run a wire down through the floor in that room down to where that needs to go, or just extend our power downwards so that it actually meets with the glow squid farm. That's probably a better idea. In which case, what we can do is save ourselves a motor and the thing that's attached to the motor. That bit there and that bit there, which is going to give me my wire. Oh, jeez. Give me my bit of wire. Where'd it go? Why are you not all dying? Swim down and die. Oh, I've disconnected the power. That's why they're not dying. So let's go reconnect the power. So we're going to have to be a little bit sneaky about how we deal with this. I think the best place to come down would probably be inside the wall here, seeing as there's not a lot going on there. If we just dig up through there, maybe get rid of that and then dig up through that bit, that should hopefully take us into, pretty much this area here. So all we got to do is sneak a bit of power down that hole. I'm going to extend this encased chain drive down to here. I guess stick a gearbox on there and a bit of shaft there, and then this window's right in the way. So what I'm actually going to do is get rid of that and that, dig into the floor a little bit where there's not a lot going on. We see we've got a whole big gap down there. And if I bring this encased chain drive down there, it's a little bit more hidden. I'll spin the bottom one round. We don't need any of this girder under here anymore, so let's get rid of that. Put a gearbox there. We'll put a gearbox there that will turn into a vertical one. And then if I join that to that and that to that, that's all going to start going. So now I can rebuild the floor in here and make that look a little bit nicer, just like that. And now we can go back downstairs. Struggle to get through our elevator door. No, we got through this time. And we just need to feed the power down here. First thing I'm going to do is actually encase this, but because now it all looks sort of out of place with everything else we've got going on, I'm going to use some of these copycat boards just to cover that up a little bit. You can see it on the edge of the glass, but it's absolutely fine, and now that just blends in a little bit better. So now we need to get down underground. So I'm going to send that elevator up, dig this floor out here because we don't need that anymore, fall down, and then we need to attach this shaft to the right bit. which means I need to get rid of all of that shaft, fix this floor up a bit. And thinking about this, I actually want this to go into this bit of wall here so we can completely hide it inside the walls without seeing it at all. So now at the bottom of our hole, we have our shaft coming all the way down. We just need to connect this to our existing power system, which is just behind the wall there. So let's just extend that bit of chain conveyor there, get rid of that, stick on a vertical gearbox there, and then all I need is a little bit of shaft there and we're all connected. So now I can put the ceiling back in, cover that shaft up there, and everything's nicely hidden. It looks a whole bunch tidier, and now the walls look better, he says, looking at my AFK spot and realizing this looks awful. So let's get rid of that and put that back to normal, and let's make sure the elevator actually drops me off at my AFK spot. And we can do that by, I guess, adding some more glass in this way. I don't know why we've got a glass walkway around here, but we have. And now we've got a gap the elevator can get past. We actually need it to stop in the right place. And that means we need to dig a hole in the wall there and put a redstone contact in that bit there. And it appears I'm off by a block, so the redstone contact actually needs to go there. Does it? Oh no, I'm off by a block that way as well. Okay, fair enough. So it actually appears the redstone contact needs to go there to become an elevator contact. And we're going to call this one Glow Squid AFK. And let's make this a little bit safer. We'll bring that round to there. And we'll add a whole bunch of railing around this so that we don't fall off. And we can stick some railing around the side of this as well so that we don't fall off. A little bit there and a little bit there. And we need a little bit of a space for the door. So now the elevator should come to the right place with that one. So let's call the elevator back to this floor. Let's hop inside, and now we can click both of those. Let's go to the Squid Farm AFK spot. And yes, we come out at exactly the right point. That's very useful. In fact, we could probably just stay in the elevator to actually AFK here rather than going into the little AFK spot. And if we go all the way down to the bottom, where do we end up? Block too high, but that's fine. So let's just sort that out a little bit. Let's send it back up to the AFK spot. And let's just move this redstone link into the tinted glass there. Just like that. We'll call it Glow Squid Farm. And now when we travel down, we should be level with the rest of the walkway. So we just need to build this out around here, which does mean we're not going to be able to see all of the Glow Squid Farm. I realise that, but it's fine. And I've also noticed that the Glow Squid Farm is running in completely the wrong direction now because, yeah, I put too many gearboxes in here. In that case, let's just put that there, and then if we put one of those there instead, there we go. Now it's all working correctly, and our glow squid are dying. There we go. Now the elevator's got a nice little box surrounding it. Let's just send it back up. Fill in this little hole here, a little bit just like this, so it's a little bit random. And we'll just have to assume the bit underneath the platform is still going to spawn glow squids, but we've got no way of calling the elevator back because I didn't put a button on that contact. But that's fine, because if we're down here, the elevator should be down here, so we really don't need to be able to call it. And with my jetpack, I can fly up to this point, so let's just check that once again. We'll go down to here. Everything looks nice. It all looks absolutely fine. I like it. It's good. Have we got any glow squid at the minute? No, it's all gone. That's even better. So now we can hop back up to here. Hang out at the AFK spot. Make sure things are actually going to start spawning. Here we go. Yep, that worked lovely. Oh, and a whole bunch more as well. Excellent. It's all coming to plan. Coming to plan? Yeah, it's coming to plan, mate. So there we go. Our glow squid building and elevator and everything else is now 100% complete, as long as you didn't want me to do an interior in here and we fix this. Want you to do an interior? No, I don't think so, mate. I can't do an interior. It's finished. It's done. There's no room for interior now. It's time to move on to something else. Probably this building, seeing though this is the last building that doesn't have any decoration. So after spending a night AFK at the Glow Squid Farm, I'm having a little bit of a problem. As you can see, there are a whole bunch of pillagers surrounding me. They're not just in there, they're also outside. You can see some of them over there, and they're trying to get in, and it's a little bit dangerous. But we've got loads of glowing sacks now, so that's good. And all of these have finished producing because they're all full, apart from the orange one, because apparently we don't have much orange, and apparently the purple one because we don't have much purple. But apart from those, they're all full. Now I've just got to deal with those villagers the only way I know how, and it is not going around chopping them. It is doing a runner, running away as far as I can, getting them all to despawn so that I can come back in peace. And oh my goodness, look how many there are behind me. It's ridiculous. Maybe I should turn pillager spawning off. What do you think? Let me know in the comments if you think I should turn pillager spawning off, because they really don't have any benefit. I don't bother fighting them. I don't need any of the stuff that they've got. So it's kind of just a waste of my time to fly away and go back again. And while you're scrabbling around in those comments typing stuff, why don't you hit that like button if you're enjoying the video, and consider subscribing if you're not already, because there's a whole bunch more coming up very soon that might even not be on this world. But that's enough of that. Spoilers. Right, this building then. So I've been thinking, I've probably not got time to build an entire storage system today because I've spent so much of it faffing around with the glow squid farm. What I would really like to do is get our road network in and start building some roads, which kind of means I need to get this building done very quickly. So what I'm thinking of doing is just cloning one of these, perhaps changing the colour a bit, and then just putting it there instead. So let's just grab a quick schematic of this one, because this one is absolutely fine. I'm not going to be able to get to the top, am I? I can almost reach. Come on, just reach the top. There we go. I think I got it all. I'll save that as concrete building. And back in my test world where I built this one, let's go to here, load that up into this schematic. You're taking ages. Come on. Pop this down somewhere it's not going to interfere with anything else. Probably just about there. Jeez. Many lags. And the lags are coming from the power lines, which have nowhere to go to, so they just go back to 0, 0. And now that's in place, all I need to do is run a few commands and demolish a whole bunch of this stuff. Go away, go away, go away, go away. And now all that's done and we've got a nice big hole, I can just change the colour. And there we go. How does it look as light blue? It does stand out quite a bit. I don't know if light blue concrete is the best concrete, and I've just noticed there is an error here. This is no good at all. We don't want that. So perhaps light blue's not the best colour we could have used. Let's try and find a different block that will blend in with the others. Let's try grey concrete. That actually looks quite nice. I like that. I think the windows are enough contrast to make that not look totally awful. Let's get rid of that pipe that doesn't need to be there, and this will do. So let's go and grab one more schematic and call it concrete building grey. And back in our world, we can whip the cannon and the table out, stick that on there, choose the right schematic, start getting that loaded in, stick a spare backpack down, grab the schematic, get it in place, which is going to be around about there, I think. Could be. And that looks about right on the floor, but how does it look inside? Does everything line up okay? It would appear to, yes, the stairs are coming into the right place in the rooms, but does everything fit inside? Kinda. Yes, I think that is right. So let's throw that into the cannon. Make sure it's on, don't replace any solid blocks, stick in the checklist and see exactly what we need. Many things. I'll just be a minute. Well, I've almost got everything I need except for a couple of bits. I need 302 more copycat slabs, and that's a problem because I've literally just completely run out of zinc. I have no glowstone left at all. I don't need to add lanterns or metal girders or sanded tuff because that already exists in the building, but the other thing that I need is vertical stiped white stained glass. That's right, there is a spelling mistake I've just noticed. I've used this block 1,000 times. Well, probably more than that, realistically. And I've only just noticed it's vertical stiped white stained glass. But the good news is we can make plenty of vertical stiped white stained glass because I have plenty of white stained glass. I need 977 of them, so let's grab this glass. Let's go over to our glass blowers table, and we will select many of these vertical stiped white stained glasses. There we go. Not glasses. Yes, glasses, yes. Just glass? No, it's glasses. And we only need 1,000 of them. I can turn the rest of these vertical white stiped stained glasses back into normal glass and go and put these back into my glass system to stop my machines going in overdrive trying to replace everything that I've stolen. There we go. So now if I put that back in there, all we really need is the glowstone, which I can't get, and the copycat slabs, which means I need a whole bunch of zinc. So let's head back to my workshop and see if I've got any zinc ore kicking about. Or what? No, don't you start. I do that to Mr. Beardstone. You don't do it to me. I have 48 zinc here. If I crush this through here, hopefully that'll give me a whole bunch more. It's given me a bit. Let's stick that through our blasting machine. And while we're here, I'll take out the stuff that I've pre-blasted previously. And there we go. That's how much we got. And we need to turn this into 302 copycat slabs. I don't think that's going to happen. It is not. So I need more zinc, and it just occurs to me that the area I'm in, there's an absolute buttload of it, and I'd completely forgotten about it. That was the whole point of this area, was to make all of the shiny things, and zinc was one of the shiny things we were making in my Fox Mine Reserve building. There should be a whole bunch of the stuff upstairs if I'm lucky. And these chunks are technically chunk loaded, so it should have been running in the background, but I'm not 100% sure it actually works when I'm not in the area, so let's find out. Have we got... 8,000 zinc. Yes, please. Thank you very much. I'll take as much as I can carry. Then we've got a whole bunch of... Wow, we've got so much gold. Loads of iron and copper and electrum, which I found no use for yet as well. And look at all of the andesite. Oh, wow. Okay. It was a good idea building this system at some point whenever I built it. It feels like eons ago at this point. In time for a new series? Hey, don't you start with getting rid of this one. I only feel like I've just started. We haven't got my train network set up yet. You're never going to do it, are you? Probably not. Don't tell anyone. Right, okay, back here then. So now that I've got the world's supply of zinc again, we can turn a bunch of it into the slabs. Way more than I need, but they're always very useful. And let's go to my cannon, shove a bunch of those in there, chuck my checklist back in and see where we're at. We've got everything except the things I don't need. Oh, it's time to print. Build. Yes, print. That's what I said. Well, it's probably a good job that the schematic didn't have a roof on it. No, that time-lapse didn't cut short. Of course, this building is shorter than this one, so we're actually missing a whole 2 floors with the building. So that means I've got a little bit more work to do manually, or semi-manually, I guess, because I can still cannon the top 2 floors in, but I do need to get rid of that trim on the top floor so that we don't overwrite those blocks. Oh, and of course we don't actually have an elevator, do we? So I guess I'm going up here manually. But it looks like everything else printed okay, and it hasn't destroyed any of our things, so that's good. But yes, this is all kinds of wrong. So back in the test world then, we literally just want a schematic of the top 2 layers of this building, which we can just grab like this, load it back into our schematic, back in the real world, try and get it placed appropriately. So I'm going to stick it there, and then we've got some moving to do. That's it, forwards and backwards. We just need to go left and right a bit. I think I got it pretty much nailed actually. So that's good. Although I do want to check the roof. Yes, the roof does line up with everything else. That's also good. So let's stick that back in there, stick that back in there, and find out exactly what materials we need all over again. You just need grey concrete, cyan terracotta, and more vertical stiped white stained glass. And of course, the cyan terracotta is in this building now. Let's grab a bit more of that, a bit more of that. Let's have a few more of those, a little bit of that. And I believe that's everything we need. So let's get it finished off. And there we go, a job well done, and another couple of jobs well done. I actually took the liberty of putting a roof on that one and that one after that finish, so all of the buildings externally are fully complete. Everything's working, everything's tidied up. The only thing we don't have in this one now is the elevator and interiors. I mean, literally none of the buildings have got interiors, right? Oh, and I haven't put any lights in the ceiling. But apart from all of those things, and why are you... what? As well as a bunch of tweaks and changes I need to make, we're all done here. I've got loads to do still. So much to do. I'm never going to get this city built. Good news! A small amount of time has passed and we now have an elevator that goes up to all of the different floors. Unfortunately, the storage floor is the only one that's decorated, because that's the only one that was decorated in the other building. Yes, I haven't bothered to put any decoration on any of the floors at all, which means we've got this weird step and floating elevator on each one. But I'm running out of time to get this video done, and that's just where we're going to be leaving it today, which means it's time to start considering what this road network is going to look like, where my roads are going to go, and more importantly, what I'm going to make them out of. Coming back to the city area of my Season 1 world, and you can see, I'm about to get run over by a train, but apart from that, there were a lot of roads. I built an awful lot of roads in this area, and these roads are nice. I like them. They're made from trodden deep slate, trodden blackstone, and a bit of rough mud. The problem, however, is that I don't have access to pretty much any of those materials in my new world, so I need to come up with a new plan for the road layout. I also don't want it to sort of blend in with the grass at the sides like this, because we're building a city and not an industrial area like this one, so I want pavements and paths, which means I need to consider how my roads are going to be inset, or more likely my paths are going to be raised. A little bit like what we've got going on here, which I quite like. Well, that doesn't help me very much in deciding a road material. So back on my test world, I have been through all of the blocks in the game and had a look to see which ones might be suitable for our roads. I think the black wall is nice, but it's possibly a little bit dark, although this bundled black wall looks pretty road-like. Looks quite tarmacky to me. I was wrong about deep slate. I've got absolutely tons of it. I don't know why I said I didn't. So we could go with some deep slate variants, although I feel like they're a little bit light, but maybe that's just in contrast next to this black wool here. We've of course got plenty of grey wool. We've got our grey concrete and grey concrete powder. We've also got grey wool, and something else struck me. These grey petal blocks. I've no idea how you make them or where you get them from, but they kind of look a little bit muddy tarmacky if you ignore the fact that they've got these nice rounded patterns on them. So perhaps I could create a mixture of a few of these things and create an interesting looking road. Alternatively, instead of sticking with full blocks, I could actually just go to the pavement blocks or a bit of carpet to create a road. You see, we've got these McCaw's Paths and Pavings blocks here, and I kind of like this one. This one also feels a little bit tarmacky. It's got a bit of a shine to it, but the pattern on it is a bit big and not really something that I think would be suitable on a large scale for a road. The pattern on this one is a little bit more muted, a little bit less contrasty, but again, I think it's probably a bit much for a road. One block I did come across though were these McCaw's Roofs grey roof slabs, which I think make quite nice looking pavements. Although in order to make those, I'm going to need a lot of grey terracotta, and I'm not making any grey terracotta. But I could probably make it quite easily, so we'll bear those in mind. And I think those, in contrast with this black wool here, would make quite a nice looking city, road and tarmacky bit. But is that gonna look too dark? So using a building wand, I've put together a few roads with its random pattern stuff, and this one is an absolute no-go. It looks like it's got a terrible case of acne, I don't like how the paths go with it, and it's just no good. This one, however, I quite like. I do think this one looks quite road-like, it's quite messy. Perhaps these little bricks don't really go ever so well with the paths, but I kind of like the lightness of it all. I just wonder if it'll look too rough compared to our very plain and simple buildings. Those buildings. And that leads me to the third one, which I actually really like. It's very dark, and perhaps these big bricks don't really go well with this, but I'm sure we can find a way to break up these paths somehow. But yeah, this combination of the bundled black wool with a little bit of ribbed wool and a little bit of barky black wool seems to work pretty nicely, and I think that one does look the most road-like. It's quite simple, it's quite flat, like our buildings, and I think it's going to be nice and easy to build en masse. But I will need an awful lot of wool and quite a lot of these grey roof slabs, although I'm still not convinced on these. Maybe I should try this again, but with this nice light pavement instead. Let me do a proper job and see how it comes out. And so a few minutes later, this is what I think I'm going to be going with. We've got a fully wool road with these grey light blocks in the middle, which will actually keep this light and stop mob spawning on it. We've got a raised sidewalk here, or pavement if you're from the UK. Along the side of the pavements, I've actually put these copycat steps just to sort of give that an edge on there, and I've also put some grates down, which would be a little bit like drains, and perhaps we could even have the odd campfire underneath, giving us a little bit of the smoke particles coming through, making it feel a little bit more like a sort of smoggy city. I mean, that might work, right? But either way, overall, I'm very happy with this road design, and that gives us enough room on either side of the road to be able to build our trucks 3 wide. So they're going to run right at the edge of the road, but that's absolutely fine. Tempted to make the road a little bit wider, but this is 11 wide plus 3 each side, so 17 blocks wide. So back on the real world, have we actually got enough space for a 17 block wide road? Well, if we're going to be having the paths coming up to the side of these buildings, let's use these copycat slabs for that for the moment. We probably don't want the road starting to at least 4 blocks away from those, so there's actually plenty of room between the building. And then that's 11 for the road there, which means that we're actually going to be be miles away from these buildings on this side, so perhaps we need our pavement a little bit wider. Perhaps we could go 5 or 6 and have a really wide pavement on this side, and that would bring our road to here with another, let's say, 6 of these on here. And that's probably about the right width. That will actually give us room to have these skyscrapers set back a little bit off the pavement with a little bit of an entrance way up to them, and I think that'll fit quite nicely round here. But in order to make it, I'm going to need a lot of resources. I'm going to need a lot of light grey terracotta, which means I'm going to need a lot of terracotta and grey dye. I'm going to need an awful lot of black wool, and we're going to need a lot of stone and andesite to finish the paths off as well. So let's see what we've got. Coming back to this building where we make the cyan terracotta, it really wouldn't be too much effort to actually just change this up, and instead of having cyan going in there, just throw some light grey dye in there. And then we'll have all of the light grey terracotta we need. The question is though, do we actually have any light grey dye in our dye building? There's only one way to find out. Hop up to the storage level and have a look, and no, we have absolutely no light grey dye at all. But we do have plenty of white dye, and we've got plenty of grey dye, so we can make plenty of it. So that shouldn't be a problem. What we don't have though is a massive amount of wool. Or do we? Probably not. I don't think we've got enough, but we'll go and see what we do have. But I might have to do a little bit of AFK back over at the starter area. You see, we've got a wool farm over at this little village I made many ago. Over here in one of these side buildings, there is a wool farm full of mini sheeps. It's been running for a very long time. These chunks are loaded, so they should actually keep regrowing their wool and working while I'm not here, although I don't believe it does. We've got, well, not many shears left in the shear machine, so I think it's been working. But how many black wool have we got? Yeah, not loads, but these barrels here are the overflow as well. So have we got any black wool in any of the... We do. We've got a whole bunch of black wool there. It's still not enough, but I think I might have to come and do some AFK over here and make sure we get plenty of black wool coming through. I don't want... No, stop it. The other thing I should have over here is a whole bunch of bone meal from our chicken farm. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of chicken. I should probably upgrade my bread. I'm going to be so full of chicken. And I believe down under this building over here, we should have a whole bunch of dye as well, because this was my original dye farm down here. And if we hop down here, we've got a little bit of bone meal. And in here, oh my goodness, we've got all the grey dye and the black dye. So yeah, light grey dye is not going to be a problem at all. I should probably make some. And in order to make some, I think the simplest thing to do would be just to fill these things up with all of that dye from the other farm, and then set up a little crafter on this room upstairs to actually make light grey dye. At the moment, we're making light blue dye and cyan dye and grey dye, but not light grey dye. And that's very easy to achieve. We'll just, for now, filter that for grey dye instead of blue dye. Set these filters to grey and white dye, I guess, instead of that. And hopefully that's going to come through. It's not going to come through. I don't know what filter. Let's just do that. There we go. And that's going to make us all the light grey dye. And then hopping back to the cyan terracotta building, instead of having this, all we need to do is just filter that for light grey dye instead. I guess we should knock all of that off so it can start producing it. And then we need to actually put a storage box in place to actually collect it all. And this one just here should do nicely. And we can throw a threshold switch on there like we've done the rest with a redstone link on there. Grab a bit of terracotta, turn that into light grey terracotta, which we can then put on the back there. Put on there. Then hop back up here. And pop that on there. There we go. Now that's going to make us light grey terracotta, which means we should have all of the ingredients we need, apart from loads and loads of black wool. And I'm sure, as you probably guessed by now, the roads are not going to be happening in this episode because this episode is already too long. So I'm going to spend a couple of days AFK over at that sheep farm, gather all of the materials that we're going to need for these roads, and then in the next episode we can start building our city and getting transport networks and things in place. It's going to be epic. Maybe. Well, just be interesting, slightly, mildly, I guess.